My name is Rami Lote. I am a manager at the FedEx Institute of Technology. We're very excited to have Dr. Kevin Berisso, who is an associate professor in our engineering technology and under the Perf College of Engineering, and the director of the Auto ID lab here on the South Campus of the University of Memphis. I'm very excited to have him talk. I won't take up much more of his time. And Dr. Berisso, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
All right, Robbie, thank you very much. As I said, my name is Kevin Berisso. I am a faculty member in the Department of Engineering Technology. My big passion for a number of years now has been barcodes, RFID, automatic identification in general, mag stripe, biometrics, that category of technologies. And so today's discussion, we're going to talk about a effort that is going on currently called the 2D in retail, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes, and talk about how the lab is involved in it and some of the other stuff the lab's doing as well. Some of the impacts as audience members you may want to be aware of that these efforts will be having on the way you do business potentially. So the Auto ID lab here at the University of Memphis is a group of technologies and a group of folks that are involved with education, advocacy, and tech transfer related to automatic identification. And so we will be involved in running auto ID classes. I have a class today that's in lab actually at the moment. I'm involved with various trade shows and industry associations advocating for the appropriate use and selection of automatic identification technologies. And then I'll help local companies, national companies, international companies sometimes with their selection, use, problems, challenges related to barcodes and RFID primarily. There are other labs around the country that do this as well. I feel that we do an excellent job, and we are really targeted and focused, I suppose is the best way to phrase it, on the application, the integration side of it. A lot of great colleagues at Auburn University, as an example, who are doing work with RFID on the business side. And so instead of competing with them, we work with them. Same with other universities around the country. And so for the last 50 years or so, the UPC barcode really has been king within the retail environment. We are all used to walking into the grocery store, into the big box home improvement store, into big box electronics stores, sometimes the local pharmacy, things like that, and scanning a barcode on a package of whatever it is we want, whether it's a soda, medication, regardless, and using that to check out. The barcode has been celebrating its 50th anniversary, the UPC barcode and use in industry in retail for about 50 years now. It's been a lot of time for the industry to really optimize, perfect, and leverage what can we do. And a lot of people are going to argue, and I agree with them, that maybe we have reached the limits of what the UPC linear type barcode is able to do. And the reality is, if you walk into, especially into a big box store, not necessarily the grocery store, but even more so that, you will see people with their cell phones out. They'll be checking products, looking for information. The times they are changing. The shopper today in a retail environment is very much a connected, mobile, curious, and informed person who is trying to do things. The cell phone really has become arguably as ubiquitous as the UPC code on packages, and more companies are trying to leverage that. And so maybe we need to look at how can we do something like that. One of the groups and one of the sponsors for a lot of the research I'm involved in is a group called GS1. GS1 is a global organization that really supports the business to business and business to consumer transfer of data. What you see on the screen right now is from their website, But one of the things that it doesn't get to that most people have to realize is they are the holder of the master data, the master list of UPC codes that allow retail to function the way it does today. And so what happens is I scan my product at checkout and it looks it up in the database and says, oh, that is a can of Mountain Dew soda, or it's a bag of potato chips, or whatever it is. That information is generated somehow, and it's not the retail store, it's not the Kroger or the Aldi or the Walmart or whomever that's populating that information. That is coming from the owners of those barcodes. And so GS1 is this neutral third party that stands between the hardware manufacturers, the retailers, the brand owners, academia, regulation bodies, and allows and helps all of those groups to really seamlessly work together. GS1 develops standards that allow for this quick and efficient capturing of the data, capturing of the product IDs so that a quick lookup for a price can occur, or whatever the process that is being executed needs and requires. And so one of their big efforts right now is this idea of 2D in retail. As you can see from their website for the 2D in retail, it is pushing this idea of a next generation barcode providing one scan and limitless infinite possibilities. And so the goal from not just GS1's point of view and perspective, but industries, the retail industry's perspective, is to be able to globally capture a 2D barcode by the end of 2027 at checkout globally. And so regardless of where I go, instead of having to scan the UPC code, I can scan a 2D barcode and be able to check out, and the process is the same. The impact to the retailers is minimized. The impact to the brand owners is hopefully minimized as well. And so last week, GS1 held their GS1 Industry and Standards event for 2023. It was a virtual event, and they had it was a great event. There's a lot of really valuable information that could be gleaned out of a lot of the sessions. They had excuse me, folks from Pepsi and Woolworths in Australia talking about some of their 2D in retail efforts. The level of importance, though, in the industry is really reflected in the fact that the opening plenary session was adapting to the new retail landscape. That was the title of the session. They had a future of retail and consumer engagement plenary session. So this is something that is not just on their radar, but is really one of the driving forces and activities that's going on at GS1 within the retail industry as a whole. And so the first session right after the opening session was the global migration to 2D in retail, and what is involved, what are the problems, what are the challenges and hurdles that we're going to have to overcome. They had a 2D barcodes ask the expert session, so that as attendees had questions about what should I put in the barcode, how do I print it, how do I select it, place it, things like that, what are the impacts from a graphic design point of view. Folks that understand at a deep level how the 2D barcode works, how the scanners work, were available to answer those types of questions. And then more importantly, in my opinion, and definitely in some other folks' opinion, there was this 2D in retail scanner demo. And the title of the session was Scanning 2D Barcodes, the Essentials to Support the Global Migration to 2D in Retail. And this session was specifically tailored and designed to live on camera. The gentleman who was doing it was scanning barcodes that would go into the retail data stream and showing that the data coming out of the back end of those scanners is something that is viable to the existing point of sale systems and allows them to work. And then the 2D in retail mission specific work group also met during virtually during the sessions. And so during that first session, one of the things they talked about in the global migration to 2D 2-hour block is the only one. I think that was a 2-hour block. Were what are some of the business cases? And so areas of industry like inventory management can benefit from this, but also traceability, safety, sustainability. One of the big pushes for this is around the idea of, can we have consumer engagement simultaneous to the retail activities that have to happen to be able to check out, to be able to do inventory management? Can we improve the packaging? Generally, the battle for most brand owners is, do I give more space to the barcode or less space? They want less space because generally they feel that the barcode is taking away from the brand that they're trying to push. And the technical people are saying, yeah, but the barcode needs to be bigger so it scans easier, so it works at retail the first time, every time, so you can get that beep from the scanner, which is what drives everything at the retail level in terms of that financial transaction. And so what was developed was this idea of this new concept called the GS1 digital link. I mentioned earlier, GS1 does standards. So they developed a standard around how the data should look for this digital link concept. And this is not an academic type of exercise. This was not an academically driven standard. People from Avery Dennison, Pepsi, Costco, the Department of Defense, there's something like a 5-page list of companies and organizations that were involved and had their hand in helping to develop the standard, so that what we get out of this is something that is truly multinational, multidiscipline, and usable across not just the retail landscape, but really the entire supply chain landscape, which is where the power of having GS1 be involved really comes into play, because they have that ability and that impartiality to be able to bring all the necessary groups together to get a consensus and a solution that's going to work. And so what this GS1 digital link looks like is, and the syntax looks like, is a URL. It looks like something we would see if I wanted to go to the web page for Dell computers or LG or Pepsi or whomever. And so we have the HTTPS because we want it to be a secure transaction. We have the domain of where the website of where we're going to go look for it. And then we have the bits of information after that that will tell us what we're looking for, the individual item or the page or whatever. And in the case of the digital link, what we're looking at is the GS1 identifiers, where I'm able to say it is specifically this product, maybe this serial number, whatever else, so that I know exactly what I'm looking for or looking at. And then they actually built into this a way to add additional attributes that can be selected based on what the brand owner wants to do with the barcode and what kind of activities they want to make available. And so what happens when the barcode scanner reads it is it takes that big long string, breaks it down, says, oh, hey, I have what's called a GTIN, a global trade item number. That is the product ID, the part number, the SKU, if you want to call it that, for that item. And then I've got batch lot information. And in this case, I happen to have serial number information. It could be expiry date. It could be best by date. It could be any number of different types of information that GS1 supports and has standardized that can then be placed into the syntax so that the barcode scanner can extract that out in a very logical, quick, efficient, and reliable manner. And actually, GS1 has gone to the effort, if you go to their GitHub site, so the gs1.github.io interpret GS1 scan, you can enter URL looking strings, GS1 digital link strings, and say, hey, is this actually compliant with the syntax? And so if you're a brand owner and you want to make sure you're putting the right data into your digital link syntax, here you go. And so what this is doing is by combining the ubiquity of the QR code with the cell phone, we are able to have an experience that is being branded as powered by GS1, and in a lot of ways it is, because they are the group behind it that is enabling and driving and providing a lot of the tools that allow us to do this. But it's giving us a solution that would really supercharge, in a way, the QR code. We are familiar with the QR code. If you go to a restaurant anymore, it's almost impossible, it seems, to find a restaurant that gives you a menu. If you go to the airport, definitely not. But a lot of restaurants are still doing QR code based menu links. And so you scan the QR code and say, oh, I want X, Y, or Z. I want my fish and chips. I want my Guinness. I want whatever else it is. And so the consumer is trained and understands and comfortable with use of the QR code. And so by using a QR code with the digital link data, we suddenly have the ability to provide a solution that is really very, very clean and very, very elegant.
Kevin, I have a question about QR codes.
Sure.
With QR codes, is there a risk? I know with all, with anything digital or technology related, there's always a risk of privacy issues or information leaking out. When it comes to security, what is the security level of the traditional SKU or the black and white label that you see when you scan it, in anywhere, grocery store, whatever have you, versus a QR code you get at a restaurant or something like that?
So at the end of the day, the QR code is what the industry calls a data carrier. And it's no more than a piece of paper or a label with some printing on it. It happens to be machine readable. We as humans can't necessarily read it, but the cell phone can read it. The barcode scanner can read it. And so the QR code itself has no personal information. There's no way for it to have personal information unless I choose to create the QR code. And at the end of my presentation, I've got a V card QR code. And so it has my personal information in terms of a cell phone number and my email address, but that's about it. If I, and the pictures on the screen right now on the left is a Pepsi product, Starry, whatever it's called, the drink. And if I scan that QR code, what will happen is it will send me to their URL or to their digital link information. And that will then redirect me to actually information about that product. And you can actually go ahead and do that yourself. And so here's a slightly bigger version, easier to scan with your cell phone, and I encourage you to do so. But if you look at the data that's in it, that's all there is. And you can choose to not progress to that site, or you could go to that site just like you would scanning any other QR code around the world that you might choose, whether it's at the table at a restaurant or on a poster or a banner somewhere, or even a billboard potentially.
So say if I wanted to, and I've thought about this personally, this is a bit of a personal question. Say I wanted to print out a link to my guest Wi-Fi network or the password to my guest Wi-Fi network on a QR code, but I have to use a website to get that created. Is that inherently safer or unsafe versus any other type, or just having it written out literally on a piece of paper and handing it, excuse me, around a group of people at a party, something like that?
Right. So depending on where you have that QR code posted, potentially there is a chance of someone taking the same size QR code and label and putting it over yours. And functionally, at the end of the day, what they've done is hijacked your QR code, in that I think that I'm scanning your QR code, but they've cheated and put something over it, so I couldn't tell.
Okay.
Generally speaking, unless they are really that good, you're going to see it and go, wait a minute, it looks like someone plastered something over it. And hopefully you will be smart enough to say, oh, maybe I won't scan that one. But if it's at your house, if it's at, I'm a member of the Mid-South Makerspace.
Yeah.
And so I believe there's a QR code on the wall for the Wi-Fi there. And because it's in a relatively safe space, I'm going to choose to trust that what I've scanned is going to send me to the information to log in versus a phishing site or
Yeah.
something else.
Okay. All right. Very cool. I was always curious about that. Thanks for
Yeah.
Continue on.
No problem. And so the other side of this slide is something, and these were from the sessions last week. GS1 very generously provided me with these slides. This is a Puma. I want to say Patagonia, but it's a Puma tag. And so we've got a QR code on there. We've got a UPC on there. And if you look really carefully, there's a little square logo that says EPC that I'm going to talk about more later. But companies are already doing this. This is not we're going to get to it eventually. This has been rolled out by tiny little companies like Pepsi, like Puma. I mean, this is not something that is in the wings and waiting, but it is happening. And so the way it works and what they decided to do is kind of reimagine how could the barcode that is on the package be used, that space to be leveraged to provide as much information as possible. One of the drawbacks to the current UPC barcode system is that it is numeric only and it's 12 digits. That's all I can put in. I can have an add-on for a couple extra digits, but I can't really easily add additional information. I can do a lookup on that value to a website, but I have to know which website that Google responds with is the one I want, and it's a challenge. And so if we take this QR code, and again, I encourage you to scan it, what you will get in there is this text string, and that's all that's encoded. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't control anything else. There's no personal information in there. But what it does when you use your cell phone, pretty much all cell phones, Mac or excuse me, iPhones or Android are now programmed in a way that the camera sees a QR code, it tries to decode it, says, hey, I saw a QR code. Do you want to go to this link? And it normally displays the link as well. And so you would see something like this, and you can see the different components where it's the base URL of who is the brand owner for that QR code, and then the product ID information. I happen to have batch lot in there, and then I happen to have expiry date information in there. I could have 3 or 4 additional things after the expiry date if I wanted or needed to. I could have weights or quantities or whatever else is needed during the different stages of life that the QR codes that the item that the QR code is attached to has to go through. And so standard URL website look to it. But what can happen is at the cash register, when they scan this, it will strip everything else off and just use the product ID information to do a lookup the way it does now. So the checkout procedure is exactly the same. The barcode scanner does something a little different, but the cashier, or if you're in a self-checkout, you as the customer do not necessarily have to do anything different. It doesn't change that workflow in any meaningful way, unless the company chose to also grab expiration date information if it is attached. And if it's not, it just says, okay, fine, go on. But if it does have an expiration date as part of it, what can happen is the point of sale system could say, hey, this is expired. Don't sell it. One end of the spectrum. More likely what will probably happen, and there the stuff last week, the sessions last week had a session that talked about this as well, the idea of dynamic pricing. And so we've all gone to the grocery store at one point or another, and especially in the meat area and the fish area, you can wander around and say, hey, look, this package is on sale because the use by date or the sell by date is tomorrow. And so the way that happened is currently the retailer has to send somebody out, look at every last package, have a roll of labels and stick a label on there to indicate that it has to get a reduced price. Maybe they have to print something additional and attach it to trigger that reduced price at the cash register. This is expensive for the retailer. That is not generating extra revenue for the retailer. That employee, that team member could be preparing additional stuff to be put out. They could be helping a customer. Marking down product is not saving money. It's trying to capture some money that would be otherwise lost, because when it goes to get checked out, if it is expired, you have to throw it out as the retailer, right? And so you don't want that to happen. You want to encourage customers to find something and go and dig through and say, oh, hey, that package of steaks is expiring tomorrow. I can get my 5% off, 7, whatever the amount is. And now it's the consumer's time that is being used, not the retailer's time. And the consumer can say, you know what, I don't have time for this. I like that other package. I don't care when it's expiring. If I don't get my discount, fine. If I do get my discount, hey, it's a bonus. The consumer, on the other hand, can use that same exact QR code. One QR code, I'm being in engineering and being a technology person, obviously a bit of a nerd. One code to rule them all is kind of the idea. And so the same QR code scanned by the consumer might allow me to go to that website and look up recipes or pairings. Oh, hey, I'm getting this type of steak. Maybe there's a good choice of wine to go along with it because it's my anniversary and I'm trying to surprise the wife. Or maybe I need to check on the product to find out if there are allergen issues because my wife happens to be allergic to onions or to peanuts or is lactose intolerant or whatever. And I need to make sure that the product is going to be safe. And so as the consumer, I'm able to scan that exact same barcode and get the information I need guaranteed to be correct because it's coming from the brand owner, not, oh, did I select the correct item on the Google lookup list? And then the manufacturer, the brand owner, the distribution center, whatever else, is able to use that same information. They will not care necessarily about the website portion of it, but they'll be able to extract the product ID, batch lot information, expiration, or whatever else is selected, and be able to do intelligent decision making based on that. And so if it's at a distribution center, we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, we can have actions that are based off of expiration date as to, do I ship it or don't I ship it to the store in the first place? And so what I've been talking about is this idea of these 3 core experiences of the retailer, the customer, and the manufacturer using the same QR code, but in a context sensitive way. GS1 put together a great video that's on YouTube, and the link to the YouTube video is up, and the words are down at the bottom, kind of hard to read, but the link is up there about what they refer to as this GS1 digital link layer cake. And the idea that we have the GS1 digital link URL or URI, excuse me, that is the data. And then the link types and the information there will allow me to resolve additional information to be used by different applications and make use of that data in a use case specific way, depending on whether you are the retailer or the customer or the manufacturer or a regulator or whatever. And so I definitely encourage you to go watch that video if you want to know more about digital link. And so the issue is we have a current state of the UPC code, which is linear, and we're trying to get to the future state of this QR code that is different and works differently, but also is different information, different data. And so that transformation and that progression between the current state and the future state is potentially fraught with a lot of problems. There's no reason to think we can't get there, but can we? How do we do that? What is involved? And GS1 has taken the lead on this and done a great job of driving this this issue and driving towards the answers of it. Because we really, at the end of the day, just want to have the scanner or the cell phone or the bar or whatever it is beep once and be done. And we have our answer, we're good, end of discussion. And so one of the things we've been doing here at the University of Memphis in the Auto ID lab is testing of existing systems to confirm, are they going to work? Are they going to do what we need them to do? Are there going to be problems that we have to know about? And so I've got a question here. Is the adoption rate known for retailers adding using this technology? I do not, I'll admit, I do not have those numbers on me at the moment off the top of my head. If you email me, I'm happy to get back to you with those answers. I think I can get those from GS1 because I think they are public. But the adoption rate from the brand owners, this is happening. This is not a, we would like this happen, we want this. This is a done deal. The progression has already started. There have been a number of rollouts in Australia, and I want to say one more place. I want to say maybe Brazil or Argentina, where retailers are doing this and successfully doing it. The brand owners are putting the QR codes on there on the products so that we can scan them. And so it is maybe starting a little bit slowly as people are waiting to confirm it's going to happen. But if I had to put on the crystal ball that admittedly doesn't always work so well, or pull it out and put on my guessing cap, I'm thinking maybe the next year and a half, we're going to see a sudden explosion of this. I think from this session last week, what I was hearing, it is not anymore a case of what are the problems. It's just a matter of waiting to hit critical mass on the items coming in through the supply chain from the retailers that have the right barcodes on them. And so we've been doing a number of tiered testing here at the university. And what has been happening is initially we are concentrating on the large bioptic scanners that are at point of sale in retail. And so the scanner that you normally see every day when you go to Kroger or Walmart and check out, Aldi, whatever, it looks like a counter and there's a conveyor. You don't really know what it is. So the image on the right is what the actual barcode scanner looks like. And there are two cameras in that. There's one on the horizontal plane, one on the vertical plane, and they've been optimized over the years for linear barcodes, for UPC barcodes. But they're cameras. And because they're cameras, they have the potential and the capability of reading the QR code. And so we've been working with the hardware manufacturers and saying, okay, send us updates to your software so that we can ensure that the cameras are working the way they need to work. And taking current models of the scanners, we have been able to show that, yes, all I have to do is an update to the software. It's a firmware update, kind of like your cell phone. You're not replacing the scanner. That is hellaciously expensive for the retailers. Updating the software is not that big a deal. It takes a little bit of care and some coordination, but it can be done at 3 o'clock in the morning. You push out the updates and you come in the morning and no one knows the difference, except all of a sudden it is handling the data differently. It's parsing it. It's optimizing how the cameras work, whatever it is. And the scanners we use for this testing were recipients of that software. In some cases, it was the beta software, it was the early versions, confirming that it was going to perform the way they needed it to. If we found issues, and let's face it, it's software, there's often bugs. We've been able to go back to those manufacturers and say, hey, we found the following scenario, and to a company, they have been outstanding. Say, oh, hey, give us a day, give us a week, and sent us that update, and we've been able to help them confirm and externally validate that yes, what they think they're doing is working the way they hope it's going to work and expect it to work. And so for the early testing, it was a robot picking up a card and passing it over the scanners. And you can see some pictures of what some of the card designs look like. The ones up the top are earlier stage cards. The ones down towards the bottom are samples that we tested for what we're calling co-located symbols. As we move to 27 and then beyond, there will be a period of time where we have to maintain, we being the retail industry and the manufacturers, we have to maintain both a QR code and a UPC, because not everyone has made the migration to a barcode scanner that can read the QR codes. And so what happens when we do that? Will the scanner send two scans? And that's not a good thing, because now the cash register system has to figure out, did I see the same scan twice, or did I see two items that are the same get scanned? And that's the challenge. And so we ran tests on that to validate that the software changes that were being done by the hardware vendors were going to provide a data stream that made sense, that the cash registers would be able to use correctly and logically. And so here's a quick video loop of some of the testing we're doing. And this is running on what's called a presentation scanner, but same concept, taking a card, running it past all these barcode scanners. The jump is just because of where the video starts and stops, and we are getting those first two scanners as well. And so some of the key takeaways from the testing we've been doing, and we've been doing this for over a year now, is basically all great news. It's yes, we can definitely read a QR code, a GS1 data matrix, digital link data or not, that has just a product identifier in it, the GTIN, at retail. And so we will be able to hit this retail sunrise date of 2027 that they're targeting. But the really good news is that we can also read more than just that GTIN, more than just that part number, that SKU, the product ID. We can get expiry information or batch lot, whatever additional components we want. The downside to putting more information in is that the QR code does have to be larger. And so there's this challenge and this debate of how big should the QR code be versus how much information do we want? And that really becomes a brand owner decision more than anything else. GS1, University of Memphis lab, we're able to provide some guidance, and GS1 is working on some documents for that guidance as we speak. But we are showing that the QR codes with digital link, or the QR code or the data matrix codes with digital link, or a GS1 data matrix symbol, which has element syntax in it. It's a different way to process the data, but something that retailers may already be used to. These all work at the point of sale on a traditional bioptic scanner. And so it's not another hardware change. It's at worst case, a software update. We also showed and were able to determine how well the bioptic scanners are able to handle multiple co-located symbols. We found out, hey, some distances don't work so well. Other distances between the barcodes work better. And so basically 15 to 50 millimeters between the barcodes, the linear and the QR code, or if you want two QR codes or a QR code and a data matrix or whatever, is really going to be ideal. If you get outside of that, there's some drawbacks to it. But the systems are able to handle it. They're able to process the data and deliver the data in a way that is safe to the systems, to the back-end systems and to the point of sale system, and it's not going to confuse the existing solutions, which is important. Yeah, like I said, co-located work best when within 50 millimeters. And then the final thing that we were really looking at was that, will these barcodes work at retail speeds? One of the concerns was a QR code is much more complex and complicated to decode than a UPC EAN barcode. There's more processing time required. Is that processing time going to be detrimental to the checkout process? At the end of the day, for a retailer, how fast people can scan products to get out the door is important, because if I'm stuck in line too long, I'm going to say enough is enough. I'm going to put my stuff down. I'm going to abandon that cart, whatever, and that's not good for the retailer. And so we were able to show that at retail speeds, at 40 items a minute, the existing systems are easily able to do that. And so you can get the details about this from those reports, but there is one thing that you have to keep in mind, and that is these were lab tests. These were done in a controlled environment with a robot. It wasn't real people scanning them. And so real world pilot projects must be done if we're going to ensure that the specific combinations of where, how far, colors, size, all of that will impact how the systems perform. And so here's a quick QR code for a link to where those reports are on the GS1 sites, and they're down at the very bottom of the page. And so what we're working on now and working on next, report-wise and testing-wise, is curved surfaces, because at the end of the day, everything we've done so far has been a flat surface. Not all products are flat. A lot of them are curved, bags, things like that. And so we have solutions and carriers that have been engineered and are being manufactured to allow us to test different curved surface diameters. Everything from like Burt's Bees chapstick up through soda cans and a can of beans or a can of coffee or something like that size. So we have different curved surface dimensions that we will be testing, especially in relation to the co-located, which is where it's really going to potentially cause some problem. Not all retailers have the bioptic scanners. They're bigger, they're more expensive. And so some places will just do handhelds, or they'll just have what are called presentation scanners. And so the upper image is a presentation scanner, lower one happens to be a handheld. We're also getting ready to work on what are called truncated symbols. Traditionally, the UPC barcode needed to be mostly a square to ensure that we could get omnidirectional readings. So a 45-degree angle, we could still scan the entire barcode. We're doing cameras now. That need has gone away. And so we're going to do some testing on confirming how much can we truncate that UPC, still be able to ensure we get reads on it, but give us more space for that QR code, or take up less brand owner space on the packaging. And then general distribution is on its way. This is the high-speed scanning, the specialized stuff that is at a distribution center or a manufacturer. So I mentioned earlier that the Puma had that little square on there, and this is a little bit bigger image, where what it says in that little square is EPC. And if you see this logo on an item that you are purchasing, what it means is that there is an RFID tag in there, and it's following the EPC global standard, which is GS1 again, and is once again impacting the retail side of things. And so not only do I have the UPC on there and the QR code, but I have the RFID tag in the background that is going to let me do some additional things. And the other side of the equation in the lab is, in addition to the barcodes, is RFID. And so we, the lab, been working with GS1 and some of their other work groups around the latest generation of tag data standard, which has some new functionality as of August of last year that is very much in line with what Digital Link is doing. And it's referred to as the plus AIDC structures. And the one that really ties in well is this prioritized date. And the idea is that in the RFID tag, we have areas of memory. And the way an RFID tag works is I read bank 01, the EPC bank. And if I want additional information in the past, I would have to isolate that tag electronically and reinterrogate it saying, give me bank 11 or the user bank for that additional information. The problem with this in a high speed, high velocity situation is I may not see the tag long enough to be able to get both reads. And that can be a problem. So the latest standard has allowed me to encode and prioritize the date so that what happens is instead of having to read the whole tag, I actually only have to read the first part of the tag, about the first third of it. And if I can get that first third, I can decide, if it is this date prioritized serialized global trade item number, which is what DSG10 stands for. If it is one of these, I can look up and say, is it a production date or packaging date, best before, sell by, whatever, and say, hey, what's today's date? What's the date in the tag? If the tag date is in the past and it's an expiration date, I can trigger this and say, don't process it any further, divert it, send it off somewhere else. Along the same lines, we can have, along the same lines as the GS1 Digital Link QR code, we have the SG10 Plus, which has the information about the product, a serial number, and then any number of additional data elements that follow the GS1 standard. And so I could have expiry date, or I could have batch lot, or I could have production, or weight, or quantity, or whatever information I feel I need in the tag. And so the advantage here is this is all in that first memory bank 01 EPC memory bank. And so now I'm able to read all that information in one pass instead of having to go back, isolate the tag, and determine what's going on. And so where this really it becomes very powerful is not at the retail store, but the lead up to the retail store. And as I'm going through the distribution center, as I'm doing my automation, I am able to have the systems and the automation controls read those tags and say, hey, do I need to divert that because it is about to expire? It has expired. It is on a recall list for whatever reason. If there's a recall on a product, maybe that batch lot should be recalled, or anything from a certain date or a production facility. And I'm able to automatically control that. And if I can grab that before it even gets to the retailer, as the manufacturer, I'm saving money. As the retailer, I'm in a sense making money. And as a consumer, I can be more confident that what I'm purchasing is potentially safe and what I want. And that is what I've got for today. So if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. We got about 9 minutes left, I believe.
Yes, we do. Yes, if there are any additional questions, please feel free to add those into the chat box below, or to use the question and answer box as well. So that was a great talk. Thank you, Dr. Berisso. And please be sure to use the QR code provided you on this last screen here for any to find out more information about Dr. Berisso or the lab in which he currently runs.
Yep. And if we can help you with testing that you guys want to do, we are happy to do that. We have the ability to do confidential testing in some cases, depending on what it is and how big it is. We are also just happy to chat with you about your use cases and the challenges and what we think some of the solutions might be.
Yeah, looks like we may have answered all the questions that were going to be
Okay.
posited anyway. So it just says that someone said a great presentation. To thank you so much, and to follow up on that, yes, thank you, Dr. Berisso. Thank you so much for your talk, and be sure to look for this and more of our speakers on our distinguished guest speakers website. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Have a
Thanks.
great day,
Bye.
everyone. Take care.
You too. Thanks all. Bye.
Yep. Bye.